All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Sportsmen. As always, Mikey V. We've got Joseph, Peter DeMar, myself, Big Ticket. Little different episode today. We're doing Sunday night. We got the Sunday night game going on, Eagles Rams. So we won't really be touching that, but we will be watching it as we do this episode. But gentlemen, let's just dive right into it. College football. Let's start with none other than Ohio State. Mikey V. Walk us through that one, huh?
Yeah, Indiana came out in that game. They played them very tough in the first quarter. First drive for Ohio State, nothing, gives the ball to Indiana. Indiana methodical drive right down the field. I thought the Indiana running back, number 8, or I think he was number 8, but he's a transfer from, I forget what school he transferred from. I want to say Virginia. I could be wrong. He was tremendous. The running back for Indiana is their bread and butter. I know Rourke, another transfer player, I believe from Ohio, is their star guy and the guy that gets all the press and the hype. But to me, for Indiana, their bread and butter moving forward, if they make the playoffs, should be this running back, because I thought he was tremendous. I thought he did a really good job. The difference in this game was some special teams issues that Indiana had. The punter couldn't control that snap in the rain.
That was tough.
Muff that punt. That was a big turning point. And then, of course, Caleb Downs for Ohio State returning a punt for a touchdown. Hadn't been done in 10 years. He's the first Ohio State player in 10 years to return a punt for a touchdown. Caleb Downs, transfer from Alabama, true sophomore, best safety in the country. He is as good of a college football player as you could get. I thought that Cignetti, the head coach from Indiana, he had talked a lot this whole season. He was a very outspoken guy. And you know what? I really I have no issue with Indiana, no issue with their fans. Again, I just think that at the end of the day, it was just too much for them. There was too much talent for Ohio State's defense. When they unleashed the dogs and they pressure the quarterback, they made this guy Rourke look like he was one of the worst quarterbacks in college football. Yeah. I mean, they were after him the whole game. Tui Mololau, Jack Sawyer, they just unleashed the hounds with the blitz. Cody Simon and Indiana could not keep up with it. I give credit to Jim Knowles, the Ohio State defense coordinator, because up until this point, Indiana's offense had been very lethal. People had said Indiana hadn't played anybody yet. The only real team that I guess people were giving him a little bit of credit was Michigan, who yesterday put up half 100. Michigan, finally, the offense woke up against Northwestern. But great win for Ohio State, a top 5 win. You could say whatever you want about Indiana, but it was a must-have for Ryan Day. They got the job done. All focus. That game is completely in the rear view. I don't care about it. I don't really want to talk. All focus is on beating the Wolverines on Saturday. That's all that matters.
They're gonna trounce them, Michael. They're gonna trounce. It's 17-point favorites. It's
20 and a half.
Is it went up to 20 and a half now?
Well, it opened to 22 and a half. Now it's 20 and a half, because it opened to 22 and a half before Michigan played that game. Michigan hung up 50 on Northwestern, only allowed 6. So now it's 20 and a half.
Ohio State's just a different class of team. Indiana is a good team, but they had to play virtually a flawless game, and they needed the breaks to go against Ohio State. And you know what? I have to say that they hung with them for a long time in the first.
The first quarter.
Really. It seemed like though that they had the momentum, and like you said, the special teams plays. When you're a team that's not at the same caliber level as the team you're playing, you can't afford mistakes like that. And that was really what just kind of did them in. I think that was the turning of the tide. But Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country, if maybe not the best. I still not sold on a lot of these teams that are up there, but the fact that you're worried about Michigan, Mikey, is crazy. It's crazy to me.
It's not, because this game is it's a different kind of game. The records go out the window. Michigan will play their best game of the year on Saturday. I'm convinced of that. Ryan Day has to prove he could beat them. I think he's had superior teams to them in the past couple years, maybe not to the degree he does this year. And he hasn't gotten the job done. I think the CJ Stroud years, he certainly had the superior team, and he couldn't get the job done with CJ Stroud. So to me, this year is you get them at home, you get them at the weakest point they've probably been in since Harbaugh left, obviously, last season. This is the year it's got to get done. It has to get done this year.
You got to love your chances, though. You got to be feeling pretty good.
I mean, I feel good because the defense looks really strong. They look like they've come on and they've come on strong. The O-line I was worried about with the center going down for the year, they held up decently well enough. But again, the D-line they're going against Michigan, Graham Mason, that's a different type of animal. But yeah, Ohio State has it all in front of them right now. Everything is in front of them. If they beat Michigan, they play Oregon again in the Big Ten title game, and they have a chance to get the bye in the playoff, which, as we talked about multiple times, is a massive deal because if you don't get the bye and you make the playoff, you got to win 4 games to win the national title. That's a big, big ask for kids who don't play that many games ever. So it's going to be it's the biggest rivalry in sports. So it's going to be an interesting game. It's in the Horseshoe, noon kickoff, and we'll see what happens. I will say this. Will Howard, to me, the Ohio State quarterback, has not gotten enough credit this year. I think that Will Howard, people break balls and they want to. Will Howard is a gamer. This kid is a gamer. Yeah. He's got a lot of moxie. I like all the stuff. I like how he's a little, out there with the trash talk a little bit. I like that. He buys into it. He had a quote about the Michigan game that I absolutely loved about how he wants to do it for all these guys who've been there. I like Will Howard, and there's a lot of Will Howard slander out there. And I got to be honest, if he had put up just a little bit more of a prolific numbers, and if they had beaten Oregon, he'd be firmly in the Heisman mix. He's not, but Will Howard, I'm very much a believer in him. I like him a lot.
He came from K-State, right?
K-State.
Yeah, K-State. Mikey, I was going to ask you, like, out of the teams, obviously, that are remaining in the playoff picture, like, is there anyone that really strikes fear, like that you're nervous if you had to go up against, with the Buckeyes? Like, is there one team that sticks out, or is there kind of like not really? Like, do you firmly believe that you guys are the best team in that mix?
To me, I really think that Oregon, Ohio State, and Georgia are 3 teams to me that kind of are a little separate from the rest of the pack. And then I think immediately after that, Texas is right there. Outside of that, those to me, like if we were still in a 4-team playoff format, those to me would be the 4 teams that should make it. Would be Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, and
Georgia.
To me, we had big games in the SEC this weekend. Ole Miss gets upset, Alabama gets upset. That's 3 losses now. I mean, like I think they're out. Like, I think they're going to miss the playoffs outright.
Especially the way they lost, too.
That Bama loss is as bad of a loss as you could have because Oklahoma is not a good team.
They're terrible.
Alabama didn't even score a touchdown.
Not a touchdown.
I mean, they didn't even score a touchdown.
Kevin DeBoer is going to be getting a lot of heat, man. And you know what? Unfair, I would have said unfairly so, even regardless, because you're coming in and taking over a position that's, no matter what you do, you're going to get criticized. But
correct.
He had 2 clunkers, the Vanderbilt game, and not to mention they almost lost to. What was the other team they almost lost to? They came very close. Was it? There was one other game too that they just barely snuck out a win. But the Vanderbilt lost.
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
I mean Georgia almost came back on them and ended up beating them too. True. After they had a monumental lead in the first half, Georgia almost came back and beat them.
South Carolina, though, now I feel like the last several weeks they kind of flexed themselves, like their abilities. I think they're pretty good. But the Vanderbilt loss and now this Oklahoma loss, I mean, it's just like there's no way that they can still be in there.
I actually think the Vanderbilt loss is a better loss than this loss. I think this loss, considering Oklahoma. If you look at the injuries that Oklahoma has had, their first 6 starting wideouts, the first 5 were injured out for this game, and then their next best wideout got hurt in the beginning of this game. Oklahoma was decimated. This was a decimated Oklahoma team that was a 5-5 football team. 5-5. And you don't even score a touchdown. I mean, they had Jalen Milroe in a box that entire game. He could not get it going. He was in between the tackles. He was trying his best to try and create stuff. There was nothing there at all. You got guys dropping balls on him. It was just an inspired performance in Norman, Oklahoma on senior night. Good for Oklahoma. Tip of the cap to them. But my God, is that an awful loss for Alabama?
Milroe, as bad as a loss. Disparity between him looking unbelievable and him looking terrible.
Yeah,
it's crazy,
man.
Night and day.
There's like that Georgia first half. He looked like he was the best player in college football. He looked unbelievable.
Even against LSU, the way he was running the ball, 4 touchdowns he had on the ground against LSU. I mean, he is so ultra dynamic of an athlete when he gets it going. But then there are games where it's like, I don't know if it's the scheme, I don't know if it's the defense he's playing, but it just is like and credit to Venables. I mean, he's a great defensive minded coach, and he literally put Jalen Milroe in a box, and DeBoer had no response, none. And they look undisciplined this year, Alabama. They don't look like the Bama teams that we're used to. And Joe said it. Joe hit the nail on the head. Like, you're replacing the greatest college football coach of all time. That's no light lift for anybody, but this was really bad, really bad.
To think about, they haven't, when was the last time they missed a playoff? I can't even, I don't even know. And now they just extended the playoff to 12 teams and they're going to miss it. I mean, that's as bad as I mean, you got Alabama fans who are spoiled, who are now probably thinking regardless, they would have been in the top 12. And now they're very likely going to miss. And that's
because
wild.
It's not even like they could make it up in the last game, because you're playing Auburn in the Iron Bowl last game. And Auburn, it's not like Auburn's a highly ranked team. You're not
had a big win against Texas A&M.
Win.
Yeah. Maybe they sneak into I mean, if Alabama blows them out, maybe perhaps, and everything else falls their way, maybe they could get the 12 or the 11 seed, but
they need some people to lose.
They need a lot of help.
They need some teams to lose for sure. Mike, you were just talking about some teams that you would be worried to play. Would you consider Notre Dame to be one of them, or are they not out in there?
I mean, here's the thing about Notre Dame is, for whatever reason, we always talk about, like, there's teams that just always beat the other team. Mm-hmm. Ohio State, when they play Notre Dame, for whatever reason, in recent history, not so recent history, they've had great success against Notre Dame. That includes Marcus Freeman's version of Notre Dame. They went to Notre Dame last year on the road with Kyle McCord, who I don't think is that great of a quarterback, and they were able to beat them in their own house on the road last year with a team that I don't think was nearly as good as the team they have this year. Notre Dame plays really good defense. Notre Dame runs the ball extremely well. The transfer quarterback from Duke, Riley, has looked so much better since the Northern Illinois loss. Notre Dame maybe has looked as one of the most complete teams since their loss to Northern Illinois.
It's amazing.
They've steamrolled teams. I mean, they have. But again, they don't play in a conference. They play these random teams like Army, like, as good of a story as Army is this year. No disrespect to Army. It is a different caliber of football athlete that's getting recruited to Notre Dame, that's getting recruited to Army, that's getting recruited to LSU, to Clemson, to Ohio State. There's a drastic drop off in the athlete himself. Not to discredit Notre Dame. They got to go on the road next week. They got to beat USC. If they do that and they take care of business, which I think they should, and they will, they'll be in the playoff. It's not that I don't want to play him, Tick. It's just like, you asked me, do they strike fear in? No, they don't. They don't strike fear in me, but they're a good team. I think
they've really brought it together. And that Northern Illinois loss could have been a season ender. And they've really rallied, and like you said, Mikey, and they've looked really good. But, watching that Army team, I haven't watched many of their games. It is amazing to me how unwilling they are to throw the football.
I know, they're completely.
They've always been like that.
Always.
Though.
The service academy,
service academies. Third and 12, down 14 points, and they're running them. I had a first half Army bet in, and I was screaming at the television.
Yeah, I tailed that bet too.
Screaming. And by the way, there was a moment in time where it looked, when they had the goal line stand, that they were maybe going to hold up.
Yeah, they held them.
Half was 7.5. Yeah. And I said, if they don't get a first down or two, they're just going to. Their defense was not nearly good enough. They would just let Notre Dame just
too many good athletes.
Just march down the field. So
they just don't belong. It's not the same. It's not the same league. They're in the right conference. The one that they're in is the right one that they're in.
Yeah.
I think Texas, to me, is a team that I would be a little weary of, because I think that they have pieces, and I really like. I think they have a great coach. Sarkisian, I think, is a good coach.
Yeah, he's good.
And I think when Ewers is on, he's one of the better quarterbacks in college football. But it's going to be interesting, because there's just no team that is like better by far than the rest. I would say, Mikey, not because you're an Ohio State guy, I would say that Ohio State, aside from the one loss to Oregon, has looked to me like they passed the eye test as one of, if not the best team in the country. I'm not just saying that to like pump your tires, I really believe it. I think that they're going to be right there.
If they could play defense the way they've been playing defense, that's a very big commodity in college football because not many college football teams have lights out defenses. They're playing lights out defense right now. That's going to be a big difference maker. But on the offensive side of the ball, the big thing for them is they have this kid, Jeremiah Smith, this freshman. They have this kid, Emeka Ibuka, who came back for another year, who's a seasoned veteran receiver. They have this kid, Carnell Tate, who's another 5-star receiver from IMG Academy who had 2 touchdowns the other week. But on top of that, not only the pass game, but they could run the ball because they have Quinshon Judkins, the transfer from Ole Miss, and they have Travion Henderson, who's been very good for the last however many years at Ohio State. They could beat you in a number of ways. It doesn't have to be through the air. Will Howard could run the ball. He could throw the ball. For his size, his mobility is a weapon. Listen, I'm excited about them. I want to be very excited about them, but the main obstacle still remains this Saturday. They have to prove that they could beat this team. They've lost to them 3 consecutive years. I understand that it's a down year for them, but they still have to go out and get it done. They still
By the way,
have to
they just got one of the top recruits in the country as quarterback coming in next year.
Yeah,
so
Underwood.
That's gonna change the whole playing surface. So I really agree with you.
He's
Mikey.
the number 1 overall quarterback. The number 2 overall quarterback is a kid, Tavion St. Clair from Ohio, who's committed to Ohio State. So it's not like the drop off is.
No, I'm not saying.
That's a huge bet.
Though.
That's a huge get for Michigan. A huge get. He flips from LSU to Michigan. It's huge for them. They needed that. The quarterback has been the whole bugaboo for them the entire season. So that's a major W for Michigan.
But as far as the guy you got now, though, that I read that quote probably half an hour ago, the one that you're talking about next week for Michigan, Will Howard.
Yeah,
that'll fire you up. That'll
Absolutely.
get you. That got me fired up a little.
Fires up more than what Ryan Day said after the game. I mean, Ryan Day keeps referring to it as the rivalry game. He always calls it the rivalry game. That's not. Like if you listen to Urban Meyer, the way he used to address that game, but Urban Meyer's from Ohio, it's just different. It was a different kind. It felt like a different approach with Urban Meyer. Like that was the season revolved around that one thing. That's the way that game's supposed to be. Everything revolves around next Saturday. That's it. That's the game.
If they somehow lost this game, next week, do you think it would take winning the national championship to save Ryan Day's job? Barring that.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. If they lose to Michigan, they would not play in the Big Ten title game. Unless Indiana somehow lays an egg next week, they would not play because they'd have 2 losses. Indiana would only have the 1. Indiana would go and play. Doesn't matter because Indiana's only got 1 loss. Ohio State's got 2. And they would have 2 losses.
It would be Indiana.
It would be Oregon, Indiana.
Oh my God.
So Ohio State would still make the playoff. I would think at minimum, if Ryan Day loses to this version of Michigan, he would at minimum have to win 3 playoff games, get to the national title game, and have a really strong showing in order to not be under a lot of criticism on the hot seat.
That'd be 3 losses to Michigan, no?
4 in a row it would be.
4.
It would be 4 in a row. That's unacceptable. You can't.
Well, that's why I'm saying I know.
This year's version of Michigan is a team that listen, the game is at home. If the game was at Michigan, even maybe that would alleviate something. The game's in your building. This team is as bad of a Michigan team as there's been in recent years, and you have what is considered. By the way, Vegas has Ohio State as the betting favorite to win the national title as of today. They're the betting favorite.
I don't see a world,
if
Mikey,
you lose to this Michigan team this year, Joe, the answer is yes, he's going to be on the immediate hot seat. Yes.
Yeah. That'd be quite the upset.
Crazy. I just don't see a world where that's going to happen. I just don't.
I'll be laying several dollars on Michigan money line because if Ohio State loses Saturday, I do it. Listen, if Ohio State loses Saturday, I cannot bear that without at least having some financial gain out of it because I mean, a loss to them already ruins my entire Thanksgiving. So it ruins that entire week.
22 point spread,
20 and a half.
Dog.
20 and a half.
Okay. That's gotta be
they're plus 1,000.
750 money
they're
line.
Plus 1,000 right now.
Oh my God. Put $20 on it. You'll be fine.
This
guy loves hedging happiness, man. I get it. I absolutely get it.
You're just throwing that money away.
I listen. I'll light the money. If you told me light this money on fire and it guarantees Ohio State beats Michigan, I'd light it on fire right now. That's what this game means. I mean, guys. Yankees playoffs, Yankees World Series, Bears games. Like this game Saturday is the most important like game that I get up for the entire year. It's not even close. It's not even relatively close.
What are
Like,
you
it's
doing
not
for the
close.
game? Are you just watching it solo?
I just watch it and I'm not a good person to watch that game with. I'm just not. I'm a horrible
Do you have
person.
people over?
No.
Are you going to go on live though? While it's
No.
no. Wow.
No. Tick. I'm not someone you want to be in the company of during this game. I'm just not. It's just
To
too
be
much
a fly on the wall,
Uh,
Pop.
Oh
Just
boy,
too
I
much for me, man.
Sure would love it. All right, let's move on to NFL Week 12. Let's just get this one out of the way. Let's just start with it. We'll get out of the way. I'm sure Mikey doesn't want to talk about it for too long. The Vikings headed to Chicago. I mean, we got to do it eventually. I figured we just ripped the Band-Aid here.
Sure.
Overtime game. They end up losing 30-27. Mikey, what happened there?
Covered the 3.5.
They did.
They did.
Did cover
What
the
a
3.5.
heartbreak loss.
Listen, I said last week, I said this team is you've heard of scoreagami. This team is losagami. They will find a way to lose that's never been seen before in the history of the NFL. So what they did this week was they were down 14 points, whatever it was. They score 2 touchdowns. They get an onside kick. They score a touchdown. They score another touchdown. They get a 2-point conversion. They get an onside kick. They kick a field goal. They tie the game. They win the coin toss in overtime.
First onside kick of the year that was successfully returned.
They win the coin toss in overtime. They get the ball and then they give the ball and they go 3 and out and they lose the game. I mean, this is as unbelievable of a story as you could write. It just is. You could write a storybook about this season, about the manner in which this team finds the way to lose every single week. The glorious side of all of this, all joking aside and everything like that.
Well, Caleb
Williams was brilliant.
Good.
He was brilliant. He was brilliant. He completed 70% of his passes. The guy threw 41 passes. He completed 70% of them. And I'm talking about this guy was throwing frozen ropes over the middle, floating it over linebackers. Running the ball, improvising, no turnovers again, 0 interceptions. He hasn't thrown an interception. I don't know the last time he threw them. Maybe the Colts game. He hasn't thrown an interception.
Be dejected. I mean, like to lose.
His spirit is so. It feels like he still has like this spirit, and I give him so much credit because he still sounds like he's got this spirit. I think he knows the deal. I think he knows deep down, like, I don't have to deal with this coach again next year. It's going to change next year. I'll be with a whole new cast of characters in the coaching room. Maybe he's going to have a lot of input. You don't know. This guy is playing so well as a rookie. Already broke the rookie passing record for passing yards. Today he threw for 350 yards almost. I mean, he posted the highest passer rating against the Minnesota defense of any quarterback.
It's a good defense against Brian Flores. That's a good defense.
Listen, he's going to have some say in what happens next here, as he should, because this guy is the real deal. The coach is a clown. He went for 2 points when he should have never.
By the way, teams are doing that now for analytics. Like they try to get good goals so that they can kick the winning.
Outsmart themselves.
It doesn't make any sense. You need 14 points.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just get the 7 and go get another 7?
I'll give the Bears credit. They were on the verge of getting embarrassed. They battled back. Caleb Williams again. Caleb Williams, he puts them in a position to win almost every single week. That's what he's done. And they just can't get it done. And it is what it is. And we move on. But it's a loss. They covered, but it's a loss. It's a loss. It's another loss.
Anything
another
to
loss
add there,
against
pal?
the NFC North.
It was so disheartening, like just to watch how excited the Bears fans were in that stadium. Like they were just geared up. They were so jacked up. And then to watch them just like
silly, very silly.
Watch another awful loss. It was brutal. The Bears defense, by the way, played awesome. I thought.
Yeah.
I thought
I thought they were okay.
They held Justin Jefferson to one of his
they
lowest
did,
games.
but then Jordan Addison completely cooked him. Like you can't hold one guy down and then let Hawkinson and Addison just cook you. And Aaron Jones did well. I mean, I thought they played an okay game. Certainly not even close to what they should have done. But again,
when Jordan Addison ran out of bounds, by the way, and they had the camera angle, the boundary angle,
they're not
and
allowed
they
to
said
use
they
it.
can't use that.
How
angle.
wild is that?
How crazy that is! The dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Add it to the list, man.
I couldn't believe
Add it to the list.
He stepped out of bounds and they couldn't use it.
It's just wild.
I didn't see that.
Oh,
what happened, Pop?
They had Jordan Addison caught a ball and like made a move on the sideline where it ended up being like a 70-yard catch and run, but they were trying to review it saying he stepped out of bounds early, which he did. But the only camera that showed that was called a boundary camera, which is not available in all the stadiums in the league. So therefore, if the camera's not available in all stadiums in the league, they're not allowed to use it.
Then why the fuck do you have it?
Well, they're allowed to use it for official reviews, but not for coaching reviews.
For coaches' challenges.
Oh my God, that's going to
the NFL is so ass backwards with their rules.
Goodell's got to get his shit together, man. What the fuck are we doing?
Clear angle. That guy stepped out of bounds. You just got to toss it away.
Imagine facing Addison in fantasy and he gets a 70-yard reception.
Everything's going to be lost in the shuffle of this game. But the bottom line is this.
Yeah.
This game never goes to overtime if the Bears don't get another field goal blocked. They had another field goal blocked from the same position that got blocked when the Packers played them last week. So that means that the coaches made no adjustment to that whatsoever. Once again, this is on Matt Eberflus again. And you lose a game because you haven't made the adjustments that you need to make. That's it. It's the same thing every week, guys.
All right. Well, let's move on. Appreciate you talking about it, Michael. I know it's not easy. It's not easy. Let's move on here to the Patriots. They went to Miami and played the Dolphins. Two is right. He's rolling, man. He's rolling. They ended up 34-15. What'd you guys see there, Joe?
7 touchdowns in the last 2 games. Jalen Waddle plays football still, apparently.
Yeah,
I had an absolutely I had him off fantasy in my other league, and it's like I almost didn't put him in this week because it's like the guy's been nowhere to be found, and somehow it's like, all right, this guy's still got it. And Devin Cheney or whatever the fuck way you pronounce his name, he is awesome. That guy can do it all. But the thing is, I said this to Mikey because Mikey's got him in his fantasy, and like as good as he looks, you got to sit there and wonder if you're a Dolphins fan, like. One big hit, one huge takedown. Like you saw where they're at without him. It's like it's got to be somewhat nerve-wracking as a fan, as someone who's cheering for this team, to know like what the alternative is to not having this guy in the lineup, because they were in shambles. And then you watch them today, and it looks like they're a completely different team. With him in there. And say what you want about Tua, maybe he makes mistakes, maybe he's not always the best quarterback in the NFL. But in this offense, he fits that role that he needs to play. I thought he looked great again today, and the Dolphins roll.
Yeah, I've been drinking the Dolphins Kool-Aid ever since Tua came back. I mean, I've been saying he's looked so good since they came back. I've been riding them with picks and all that since he's come back. This is a team that's won 3 games in a row now and conceivably could have won and maybe should have won 5 games in a row. They blew the game against Arizona. They blew the game against Buffalo, both of them extremely close games. And then they rattled off 3 in a row. And I mean, they're scoring a lot of points. It's back to kind of like what it felt like before Tua was hurt. And, I'm still a believer in this team, as a sucker or not, whatever. I think the defense could do just enough to get it done. And I still think that on offense, once Tua gets in rhythm, he's so accurate that they could be very lethal. They have so much speed with Waddle and Hill and Achane and Jonnu Smith has been great for them. And they've been really, really tough. So, I'm not going to sleep on the Dolphins yet, man. They're alive and they're kicking.
He gets rid of the ball really quickly too. One of the fastest in the NFL.
The only problem with him with the worries of the concussions is that he doesn't do himself any favors. He seems to put himself in a lot of bad positions.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
And it's just wild to me that he wouldn't at this point be protecting himself a little bit more. But nonetheless, he's kicking ass right now. Like Mikey said, Jonnu Smith's playing out of his fucking mind. Jalen Waddle's back. It's great. All right, guys, let's move on to another fucking nuts game. Was the Cowboys and Commanders.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Cowboys ended up pulling that out somehow. Cooper Rush and the boys ended up winning 34-26 in Washington. What'd you guys say?
Herpin, by the way, let's talk about that spin move. It looked like you were watching a guy playing Madden, like the spin move, like 2 seconds before anybody was around him, and somehow just goes to the house. And then the Terry McLaurin. I mean, that just can't happen, absurd. Man. I'm facing Ticket in fantasy this week, and he's got Terry McLaurin.
That was great.
I said, okay, you know what? They kind of held him in check to a certain degree, and all of a sudden, I look on Red Zone on the top corner of my screen, and I see number 17 just rolling down the field to tie the game. I was like, are you fucking serious? And then for them to miss the extra point. I mean, that game was just like insane. If you watch that game halfway through, Mikey, if you have the under, you had to be
the third quarter. The third quarter ended. The score was 10-9. The final score was 34-26.
It was the craziest.
That's not even possible. That's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. That's 41 points in the fourth quarter between the two teams.
Even the last touchdown, the onside kick, the guy returned it for the touchdown. I mean,
it was crazy. It didn't burn him, but he should have just slid, and the game would have been over. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Commanders, I have been firmly off the Commanders since the week that they hosted the Steelers at home. And it's not anything to do with, like, I think they're a bad team. I don't think that. I just think that they so overly achieved so early in the season, and Jaden Daniels was so insane. Like, he is still a rookie quarterback. This was still a roster that no one ever thought was going to do what they did in the first half of the season. And now it's the law of averages is slowly starting to catch back up with the Commanders. And that's kind of what we're seeing now, a return to reality for them. So it's nothing like a bad knock on the Commanders. It's just, this is kind of more what I expected. I expected this to look more like the Commanders team. What you're seeing now, what you saw against the Eagles, what you saw against the Steelers, like, that's more of who I expected to see, as opposed to like the team that went into Cincinnati on a Monday night and blew the doors off Cincinnati because they were nuclear hot. This is more like it, I think, for the Commanders for this year. And that's not a bad thing. If you're a Commanders fan, there's no need to panic. Like your team, like, you can't think like you started hot, oh, we're going to win a Super Bowl. Like, this is the reality of what this team was supposed to be. And they have a lot to build on, and they're going to be a very good team. Because the quarterback will be very good.
Too, Mikey, is always
right.
You never
Divisional
know.
game, you never know. Look at the Steelers and the Browns on Thursday night. You never know. You never know.
These teams, they play up for these
today. Titans, games. Texans. Titans beat the Texans. They're an 8-point underdog. They win outright in Houston. I mean, this is divisional games in the NFL are a different animal. They're a different animal. Bears covered last 2 weeks against big time favorites, against teams that are a lot better than them. It's the way it goes, divisional games.
Yep, always has. There's a little something funky going on with the Texans, I think.
Oh, very. Their O-line stinks, Tick. Their O-line is as bad of an offensive line as I've ever seen. I mean, Stroud's running around there like a chicken with his head cut off. It's bad. It's really bad. Really bad.
Playing in Chicago, I know.
And by the way, if it wasn't for the Will Levis pick six, this wouldn't have even been as close of a game as it was, because they were going in. Levis and them were going in, and he threw a pick six. After Stroud had thrown an interception. Stroud threw a pick, and then Levis threw a pick six in Texans territory. It wouldn't even have been this close. Texans really, I mean, that O-line.
It was a wild game, too. Points flying off the board in that game.
Yeah, we had the under in that one, Joe.
That's 59. That's tough.
It looked for all intents and purposes like at one point, like the game was going to slow down, and every time that happened,
well, I mean, halftime it was 20-17, though. That's not good.
But I'm saying in the first half, there was a moment in the second quarter it looked like it was going to slow down, and then a team would throw an interception or a huge run back on the return. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting fucked here. So
yeah, it wasn't good.
It was an exciting game, though.
And then we just called it quits, though, which I'm proud of us for. We didn't go chasing. We just cut our losses and moved on. That's good. I like that. All right, let's move on here. The Chiefs headed to Carolina. They just refused to beat the shit out of a team that they should. They just love keeping it close. They ended up winning that game, though, 30-27. Gentlemen, what'd you see?
Bryce Young, you got to tip your cap to Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young, since he's come back from the benching, has looked well. I think he's looked very well. I thought they've been playing inspired, tougher football since he's been back. The Chiefs do what the Chiefs do. You can't give the ball back to the Chiefs. That's the bottom line. Is it's nice that you tied the game 27-27, but unfortunately, if you give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes with a couple minutes on the clock, you're done. You're dead. That's just what it is. The Chiefs, again, using Hopkins, using Noah Gray, had a nice day. Travis Kelce had a nice day. Mahomes was probably one of the better days he's had all season. He was excellent. The Chiefs again, the Chiefs just take care of business. They just win. It doesn't matter. They don't care about spreads. They don't care about anything. They just find a way to win. Again, if they have the ball at the end of the game with a chance to win the game, more than likely they will. And that's what happened.
Quite frankly, they don't cover a lot of spreads.
No, they don't.
The last couple of years, they don't. But they win ball games, and Mahomes now, after several weeks of not looking great, is starting to really play some good football. I mean, was it 270 yards passing, three touchdowns, no interceptions,
no picks. Yeah.
I mean, he's good. He's fucking good, man. And he's going to keep winning games for this team.
Yes.
And that Noah Gray's been playing out of his mind too.
Yeah, I mean, he's the heir apparent to Kelsey. He's not going to beat Travis Kelsey, but he's the heir apparent. I mean, he's younger. He could move around. He's a little bit better, in open space right now than Kelsey is. But, they once they're going to get Pacheco back next week. I think that's going to help them immensely, getting Isaiah Pacheco back. Not that Kareem Hunt's not good. He's been tremendous for them, but Pacheco is a different type of animal for them out of the backfield, in the backfield. He's a tremendous player. If he could stay healthy, his bugaboo has been, he runs so hard that he gets hurt all the time.
Yeah.
So, but if he could stay healthy, and with the addition of Hopkins and Juju Smith-Schuster and Noah Gray and Travis Kelsey and Xavier Worthy, this is a dangerous team as always with 15 in the backfield tick and Spagnuolo as the D coordinator. Like I said, in the playoffs, the regular season is almost inconsequential with this team. It almost doesn't even matter.
I know.
If they get the ticket to the dance, it's a totally different scenario. So it's like you can only say so much about them in the regular season.
Doesn't Jet do a good impression of Pacheco running? Like, didn't he do where he tries to plant his foot? Like, we're gonna have to bring him on next time. I think he does a really good one.
He definitely does the LeBron backwards thing. He does that one. I don't know if he does Isaiah Pacheco, but he might. I'm sure he does. He's got a bit on everybody. He's a bit machine, buffet of bits. All right, let's move on. Xavier Worthy has been pretty damn good too. He's got a bit of a case of the drops, but he's
Imagine
he gets in the open
still had
it's so dangerous.
Rashee Rice, and if they still had, I mean, Hollywood Brown didn't even take a snap with this team.
Yeah,
sure didn't. It feels like Hollywood Brown hasn't taken a snap in 5 years. I know it's not true.
That's correct. That's correct.
All right, let's move on here. The 49ers headed to Green Bay. Joey D, they took care of business, man. 38-10. What'd you see in that game?
I mean, this is not the same Niners team, when you don't have your best D end, you don't have Trent Williams, you don't have Brock Purdy. I mean, they were decimated. There was no question about it. Obviously, Ayuk's out for the season, so this is not the same Niners team that they've had to face in recent years. But you know what? I'll tip my cap to the Packers. They did what they had to do. They took care of business, and they beat them down, and they won convincingly. And the offense did look great in the second half. They didn't do much, but the defense really stepped up this week. They made plays. They got turnovers. They had, I think, 1 or 2 fumbles and interception. Like, they played well. Like, they got pressure. They didn't allow the Niners to believe at any point that they were going to win this game. Josh Jacobs, if they could keep running the ball with him like that, man, this team becomes very dangerous because the run game opens up everything. It helps protect Jordan Love. It gives him time in the pocket to make plays. It opens up the play action pass. It basically allows them to do whatever they want. And he's starting to look really, really good. He's eluding tackles. Josh Jacobs, to me, when I found out we got him, and a lot of people were really upset, including myself, that Aaron Jones left. I don't think we realized what we were getting in this Josh Jacobs, because he's one of the better running backs when he's going at full steam, and he can handle the workload. So I was very impressed with the Packers team, even though they didn't beat like a full top tier Niners team. I thought they took care of business. They did what they had to do. They won convincingly, and they move on. And they still sticking around with the top teams in their division.
Yeah, listen, I love the Packers today. I put them out first half. I put them out game. I loved them before I knew Purdy was going to get out, before I knew Purdy was out. I just thought this was a spot for the Packers at home. Shaky game against the Bears last week in Soldier Field. Jordan Love was due a game like this where he was a lot sharper. And it's just the Niners, I said it from the beginning of the year, man, like that. they're so dinged up. They're so beat up. The schedule for them is so brutal in terms of the net rest and the days off that they have is so few and far between. They are in shambles right now. The 49ers are in total shambles. Yeah. The payroll that they have with the players that they have, the injuries, Trent Williams and Nick Bosa and Purdy and Ayuk and all these injuries like Joe was mentioning. This is a totally different team than the team that beat the Green Bay Packers last year in the playoffs. I'm not surprised. I really thought that the Packers were going to blow the doors off of them today, and that's exactly what they did from start to finish. It was an ass kicking. And yes, but Brandon Allen, I mean, he wasn't terrible.
No,
I mean,
he played all right.
He was all right. But it didn't matter. I mean, the Packers were just that much better, and that's what I expected. I think the Packers, as it stands today, right now, they're a better football team right now. The situation right now, and I'm not even talking about Brandon Allen. Let's say Purdy was in that game. I still think that the Packers, as of today, with the injuries, besides Brock Purdy not playing, are the better football team. I
will go on the record and say I think Xavier McKinney has made a bigger impact on this Packers defense than anyone I've seen since maybe Charles Woodson.
He's awesome.
He is everywhere. He is coming off on blitzes, making sacks. He is at the right place at the right time. Another interception today. He's been a revelation. The fact that the Giants, another player that the Giants let go of.
That's
such a joke.
That position is like a luxury position. Like if you're a good football team and you can add a guy, like that's the kind of guy you go and get in free agency. You don't build your you don't build your premier position players through free agency, like edge, wide receiver, corner, quarterback, left tackle. Like you build those positions through the draft. But once you're a good team and you have a little bit of money, those are the type of luxury positions, outside linebacker, center, guard. Those are like the cherry on top positions. That's what McKinney is, because when you bring a guy like that in, he becomes that kind of a difference maker. That's like, it's the cherry on top to the Jair Alexander, to the Rashawn Gary, the guys that you built through the draft to build that defense to what it was, the linebacking core that they built through the draft from Georgia. That guy, McKinney.
Oh, Key Walker.
Yeah. This guy is the guy you add in there in free agency because that's a luxury position. Safety's not an essential, like a corner, like I said, edge rusher, left tackle, but that's a cherry on top position where if you're a good team and you could go get a guy like that when you're in win now mode, he makes a world of difference. And that's what he's doing. I mean, he made that one pick was awesome. The return was great. It was, it's tremendous.
Yeah, I feel you, Mike. I mean, I know what you're saying, Mikey, but man, when you have a bad safety or a bad couple of safeties, boy, do you feel it. Boy, do you just get beat over the top left and right.
Packers.
I mean, that's what was happening to the Eagles the last few years.
Yeah.
The Packers, the secondary is finally pretty good with Jair Alexander. Eric Stokes is like still kind of building into his own, but like you put McKinney there in the back. I liking what I'm seeing out of the defense more and more. This defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley from Boston
He was
College,
the head coach at Boston.
He was the head coach, but he's now our defensive coordinator. Yes. He has made his mark. I think the defense looks solid this year.
Yes. He went to Boston College after he was the D coordinator at Ohio State when they went to the playoff, but they had lost
in 2019.
In 2019, the year that LSU won the national title.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe, you got to be liking everything about this team, the offense included. All right, let's move on here to a game. This was our game of the week, Joe. We got smoked. The Cardinals went to Seattle and just looked putrid. I mean, everything that we were singing the praises of these guys last week, and they just threw it in our face. They went to Seattle and lost 16-6. What'd you guys see there?
It's just a tale of two different teams. I feel like when they play at home, they're so much better than when they play on the road. And they just did not listen. This game was not that bad. Like up until the third quarter, like they were right. Like they were winning the game, like they were losing 7-3, but it was not like a blow up by any means. The majority of the first half, Arizona looked like they were going to win this game. And then they just compiled mistakes. They couldn't get out of their own way. Kyler threw a pick six, which to me was really like the turning point of the game. He tried to extend the play and like do a little dump off before he got to the line of scrimmage, and Kobe Bryant, not the real Kobe Bryant, but another Kobe Bryant, pick six. That to me was the turning point of the game, because that really opened it up for Seattle. And Geno Smith, he made another interception, another mistake. I do say Geno Smith is good for at least one mistake a game, but he also made some plays and extended with his feet and made some really good plays downfield. I can't take that away from him. So, Seattle, I'm still not really high on them, but I think this was more so of a game where I don't know. You watch the game. Let me know what you think. But I just think it was a game where Arizona they couldn't get involved. Aside from McBride. McBride looked like he was the best tight end in football in this game.
He's awesome.
Somehow, some way, they couldn't stop him.
He's
awesome.
beast. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that one play that you're talking about, Joe, I agree was the turning point in the game. He was being chased by Weatherspoon. It was a great play by him. But to throw a ball that over the head of your guy right
tough.
to Kobe Bryant was unbelievable. And then he got embarrassed when he tried chasing him down, dude. He was catching this guy, and then he just got fucking leveled.
Yeah.
He got fucking rocked, this kid.
There's no better time to nail a quarterback than when there's a pick six on incoming, and you as a linebacker see the quarterback trying to chase your guy down. Mm-hmm. You just put your shoulder down and level.
That's exactly what fucking happened to this guy. I'm surprised he's breathing. To be honest, I mean, he got fucking. It was just like this little guy just fucking trucking
so
it
funny
down
when he's running. Yeah,
him and Patrick Mahomes have this. Like, I don't know what they do. It's
Patrick Mahomes looks like his entire upper body is just still when he runs. Like it's just his legs. It's like
when
like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah. He looks like Sonic. He's just like little Mighty Mouse.
All right. Anything to add there, Mikey, before we go on to the
you know what? That's like one game that I wasn't really paying much attention to. I'm surprised though. I like the Cardinals pick. I had said that. I thought that was a good pick. I was surprised that they didn't win that game. My big takeaway.
My big takeaway is that the NFC West is just not very good. They're very mediocre. Week to week, you could get a different team. If they all played each other, one team would win every second week. The Cardinals one week look really good. The next week, they look like trash. The Rams one week could beat the Chiefs, and then beat a team like the Chiefs. The next week, they look like they don't know what field they're on. It's great. And same thing with the Niners. Now, the Niners, I'll give a little bit of leeway because they've had a lot of injuries, but I guess the Rams had some injuries.
Tell you what, that feels like most of the league, to be honest. Unless you're like the Bills or the Chiefs or the Lions right now, it feels like all teams are capable of that. Just looking like trash one week, coming back the next week, showing who they are. It just seems to be going around. There aren't that many good teams. It doesn't feel like it.
The Lions are the real deal. The Lions
they're a wagon. They're a wagon.
As good a team as you're going to find in the
NFL. I agree with that.
All right, let's see. This Thursday night game was the Steelers who headed to Cleveland. It was a pretty damn good game. I don't think many people saw it coming. I know I didn't, but the Browns ended up winning that game 24-19. Gentlemen, what'd you see there?
Horrible decision-making by Mike Tomlin all over the field, starting with the 58-yard field goal attempt in that weather.
That?
I mean, pin the ball deep and let your defense go to work. Best defense, one of the best defenses in football. You trying a 58-yard field goal in that wind, in that weather. That's a hard enough kick to hit inside of a dome. The fourth down calls, bringing Justin Fields in an obvious run. Terrible decision. Giving them an extra play at the end of the game on the illegal touching of the ball, giving them a 3rd and 7 instead of taking a 4th and 2 where it was a do or die play for them. Horrible decision. Bringing Justin Fields in on 3rd down when you had the ball after you picked off Jameis Williams, and then you throw a ball instead of running it. You're going to throw a bomb with a guy who's not a passer of the football, not a post passer. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson, his deep balls looked incredible all night. Another horrible decision. Just Mike Tomlin lost him that game. That was Mike Tomlin's game to lose, and he lost it because Pittsburgh did what they had to do in spite of him to get themselves back in that game, and that was it.
Jameis Winston to me is one of the funnest guys to root for.
Yes.
There's nobody better on the planet.
I think now they just waiting, like licking their chops to do the pregame routine like interview, and I don't know if he's actually laying into it more now.
He might be.
It's like the Horseman. Did you hear this week's
so good.
one? It was just like, I am blessed to be playing in Ohio, in this Cleveland stadium in weather like it's like what are you talking? You guy made it sound like he was playing in like in Nirvana, like in like a heavenly state. Meanwhile, you're playing for Cleveland in like the shittiest weather. This guy's a warm weather guy. Like, it was
I respect
bizarre.
it. I
I
respect
do too. I think it's hysterical.
There's nobody funnier than that guy, dude. He's
You
not
know,
living
and
on the same planet.
they love him, man, because like Cleveland like loves their Ohio. I mean, football in Ohio is a religion, and I mean, like they love this guy. I mean, how could you not? Like they love this guy, and he says all the right things, and
Good for them
he
too. They
played out
went
of
from a
his
scumbag to a guy who,
he played
is
out of his
just
mind on Thursday. He was playing loose. He was playing fun. He made a couple incredible plays. I mean, it was awesome.
he's
I mean,
won
the
them
game was
two
awesome.
big games. He's won
Yeah.
them games against the Baltimore Ravens and against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
So say
Gotta
what you
do.
want. I mean, this guy, he goes out and competes every week. And you know what? He'll throw the ball. It'll either be an incredible touchdown or the worst interception you've ever seen, but he's going to keep throwing that ball, and he's going to throw it happily the next 10 times in a row. I love rooting for him.
He's just blessed to be playing in Ohio, man. That's all it is. That's
right.
all it is, dude.
That's right, man.
All right. Mikey, did you see, by the way, just real quick, that John Gruden went to, I mean, I'm sure you did, that he went to Barstool?
Yeah.
He's working at Barstool now?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you like that? What do you think about that?
I love it.
You love it?
I think he's tremendous. I
too.
thought every clip was so good. Yeah, I was disappointed when I went there to stream last Sunday that he wasn't there. I thought he was
that would have been sick.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved Gruden. I'm as big of a Gruden advocate as you could get. I mean, I think he's so funny. I think he's tremendous. Everything he says is gold. Everything.
I agree.
Everything.
He's got a new handle. He's Barstool Gruden.
I know, it's so good.
He follows 3 people.
So good. So good. So good.
All right, let's move on to week 13 previews. It's obviously pretty far out for us. We're just going to stick to the Thanksgiving games. Maybe we can do the Friday game as well, but that'll be it. Just those 4. Let's start with the 12:30 game on Thanksgiving. The Bears are heading to Detroit. Detroit's favored by 10.5 points.
Oh boy.
Over under 48.5. Who do you guys like?
I mean, way to ruin my fucking Thanksgiving with this game. Yeah, I mean, listen.
It's bad. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, listen, you can't keep picking against the Lions to cover these spreads. They just cover every spread. I mean, they just do. They cover every spread. Give me the Lions minus the 10.5 every week, where I'm like, oh, maybe this, even today, I was like, maybe the Colts, I didn't put it out, nothing, I didn't touch it, but I was like, maybe the Colts. No, the Lions they just keep rolling, and they just keep covering spreads. They're going to be at home. It's their game. Bears are going to be, the Bears have to be so dejected after today again, like losing a game in that fashion again. Hard fought game against the Vikings. They got beat up, I'm sure, physically after that game.
Yeah.
Caleb threw like almost 50 passes. Like, they're going to be exhausted. Short week. They got to travel. Lions minus 10.5. You can't take the Bears here. You can't.
I'm going to take the Bears.
Okay.
10.5.
Wow.
Okay.
I think they're going to shock the world. I think they're going to play. Dude, I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not saying they're going to.
Well, shocking the world would be to win the game, Joe.
Okay. Well,
covering
you know
the
what?
spread of a double-digit spread's not shocking the world.
All right. You know what? Maybe I'll throw a little sprinkle on money line Bears.
Oh my God, you're nuts.
You're throwing money on the Wolverines.
That's out of emotional
The
stress.
last time the Bears played in Detroit last year, I
understand that.
We just talked about divisional games.
No, yeah, you're right. They're gonna get.
We just talked about.
No,
we
you're
just
right.
talked about divisional games and how you never know. The Tennessee Titans went in to Houston and won today. They're one of the worst teams.
Yep.
We talked about how good Caleb has looked the last several weeks. They for all intents and purposes could have beat the Packers and they could have beaten the Vikings. I know,
and they should have beat the Commanders.
Okay, those are 3 teams that are among the best teams in the league.
Right.
Now, I did just say that the Lions are the best team in the league. I'm not taking that away. But 10.5 is a lot of points on a midweek. And you know what? I think the Bears offense looks good right now. I really do. I'm going to take the Bears 10.5. I'm joking about the money line. I don't think they're going to win, but I would honestly, I would take them to cover 10.5. Is a lot of points, man.
It is. It
It is
is.
a lot of points.
And the Lions have been covering every single spread.
Every
You
spread.
got to think at some point, it's going to be a closer game. Listen, the Lions could win by 9 points. They could win by 10, and you still would you cover.
That's the math of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you
Yeah,
what,
you're
man,
right. You're right.
I'm gonna actually roll with Joe though, but for
Of course,
slightly
yeah, but
different
you pick the
reasons.
Bears
I'm,
every fucking week.
I'm
Ticket.
taking them though, because
Sick.
I would not have taken them for any other reason other than I don't believe or trust them that they could win a football game, especially against the Lions. But I don't trust them to win many football games right now. But what I do trust them to do is lose in spectacular fashion. And what they have to do that is to keep it close. So you give me the 10.5.
Right.
I'm going to take
Smart.
the Bears there,
Smart.
man. It's
Smart. Smart.
All right. Okay.
I
Give
get
me
the
Bears
logic.
10.5.
I get the logic.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
I do.
Okay. But you're going to stick with the Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
sticking.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the 4:30 game. We got the Giants heading to Dallas. What a barn burner that's going to be. Dallas favored by 3.5 points. Over under 38.5. What do you guys like?
Dallas.
I like Dallas too.
Dallas. I mean, listen, it's not because Dallas just beat the Commanders. It really isn't. It's that the Giants. The Giants they're despondent right now. Yeah, Cutlets. Yeah, Cutlets that's a tough look for Tommy Cutlets, man.
When Mayfield did that was awesome.
Yeah,
that
you think
was
so?
Great. I thought it was hysterical.
I thought it was a little weak on his part.
Like a dick move.
It's like you're making fun of like a kindergartner, basically. It's like you're an 8th grader making fun of a kindergartner. I mean, Tommy DeVito's a 3rd-string undrafted free agent who shouldn't even be in the league, more than likely. Shouldn't even be playing. How Drew Lock is not playing, I have no idea. How they skipped over him to go to DeVito, I have no idea.
I don't even remember DeVito being very good at Illinois.
That's correct.
Or
so for
Syracuse.
Baker, a guy who won the Heisman Trophy, and a guy who's been to the playoffs, to mock this other kid,
you know what,
on the sideline is just
it actually makes it funnier.
That's a good point, though.
I guess.
I didn't even think of it that way. That's true. That's a good
point.
But
anyway, yeah, I mean, I'll take Cowboys at home Thanksgiving. I'll just take them out of principle. I mean, it's not a lot of points. It's a little bit more than a field goal. Again, the Giants are just in disarray. They're in shambles. They stink. They flat out stink.
Yeah, they're bad, man. They're just bad. Today was just an embarrassment.
Yeah,
an embarrassment.
They got smoked.
Embarrassment.
I tell you what,
by a warm
Baker
weather
looked
team
great
at home.
though.
Yeah.
He looked like vintage Baker. He looked like a Oklahoma Baker.
Yeah.
You get more
he's
of that.
Good most of the year. I got to give him credit. Like he's looked good most of the year. He's found a spot where he fits in, and he runs that offense efficiently. And by the way, they got a sneaky good running game. This Bucky Irving,
Bucky
came
Irving
out of nowhere. And
Rashad White, he was great at Oregon.
I'm just saying, Rashad White was like their guy. And Bucky Irving has now made it kind of into like a little bit of a tandem because he looked awesome today.
All right, so Joe, you're taking the Cowboys?
Yeah, I don't listen. Okay. I'm not high on the Cowboys, but like Mikey said, the Giants are such a dumpster fire that it's kind of hard to root for them at all.
Correct.
I would agree. It also seems like it should be more points. It seems like they're such a dumpster fire, and they're in Dallas. I just would have thought it would have been a few more points. But
to be honest, Pop, by the time this game rolls around, I'm going to be so face filled with turkey and stuffing. Sure. I'm not even going to have a wager to worry about. So, it'll be on the background.
Tells me that ain't true.
Pop, true. You'll be with me. We're going to be at Bob's.
No, I'm going to be in Charleston. I told you.
Oh, that's right. I thought you said there was a chance that you were going to.
I told you today, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't listen. He hears, but he doesn't listen.
Did you not tell me the other day though that there was a chance that you might?
I did, but
maybe he did. But then today he
you.
changed.
I did. I know. I didn't factor.
And by the way, you will have a wager on that game. There is not a fucking snowball's chance in hell that on Thanksgiving with 3 standalone games at 3 different windows, you are not going to have.
Maybe I'll take Ezekiel Elliott to score a touchdown.
Game. There you go.
There you go. That's something.
And let him jump right into that Salvation Army.
Yeah, he's done very well in the past in Thanksgiving games, scoring
March of Dimes.
All right, let's move on here to the Dolphins playing the Packers at the night game, 8:20 on NBC. Packers favored by 3.5 points, over under 47.5. What do you guys like?
No, tough to forecast that game because I don't know what the weather's going to be like. And that, to me, will be the deciding factor. If it's a shitty weather game, like, you cannot take the
It
Dolphins.
says here cold. It says it's going to be below freezing.
Well, there you go. There you go. And if you add rain or snow into that mix, you cannot take Tua. You just can't. So on that note, I may buy a point with Green Bay, but I'll take Green Bay again at home. I think Green Bay starting to roll. I love Miami. I've been sipping the Kool-Aid, but going into Lambeau is a different animal. It just is the conditions, and especially a warm weather team going there. It'd be the same as if Green Bay. I think home field in this game is so massive because if this was flipped and Green Bay was going to Miami,
it'd be tough for us. Yeah.
I'd say it would be extremely tough for Green Bay, and I'd take Miami. I'll take Green Bay because they're at home. I just think the elements will be a little bit much for Tua and the Finns to overcome.
I'm going to make this my game of the week. I don't even need to look at the other games. I'm taking the Packers. I think the Packers are rolling right now. I think we look really good. I think Miami has played well. And by the way, they played really good against that Buffalo team, which is a top-tier team. I just think the Packers, I think they're going to roll. I really do. I think we're going to get to Tua. I think we're going to cause pressure. I think we're going to dominate the time of possession. I'll give me the Packers minus 3.5. It's my game of the week.
Wow. All right. Yep. I'm going to roll with the Packers as well. Pretty self-explanatory for everything you guys just said. I just think the Packers are a good team right now, man. They're a good team, and you put them at home against the Dolphins, I'll take the 3.5. All right, let's just do the Friday game, and then we'll move on to who's a problem. Raiders are heading to Kansas City. Kansas City's favored by 12.5, over under 42.5.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Raiders with the points. The Chiefs don't cover spreads. I don't care. I can't take Kansas City with a 2-touchdown spread. They just don't cover spreads. And I understand, the Raiders and the Chiefs, and now the Raiders play against the Chiefs. Give me the Raiders with the points. That's too much. It's too much. Should be 10, 10.5. Yeah, should be 10.5, 10.
Yeah, I mean, reluctantly give me the Raiders. That's not a game I would want to be throwing money on, though.
No.
I can tell you that much.
No.
It's also an Amazon Prime game, and everybody knows that the Raiders play well on Amazon Prime.
There you go.
It's just a fact. So give me the Raiders. It's just a ton of points, 12.5. All right, let's move on to who's a problem. Mikey, who's a problem this week, pal?
I'm going to say that, anybody who's coming after Ryan Day after the Buckeyes scored that last touchdown against Indiana, and there's been a ton of fucking flack he's taken everywhere, you're a problem. Because I'm going to tell you what, Indiana beat a team earlier this year 77-3. Indiana kept calling timeouts with like a minute left, down 2 scores against Ohio State. They kept calling their timeouts. Indiana tried an onside kick down 2 scores with less than a minute left against Ohio State. So where Indiana's head coach said Ohio State sucks at his opening introduction at a basketball game, he said, "Google me," to the press conference that he had. He's been one of the most outspoken coaches, which I have no problem with. Good for him. I'm actually, I like Kurt Cignetti a lot. I think he's awesome for Indiana, but you cannot then complain and cry that Ryan Day ran a quarterback sneak at the 1-yard line to score that. You can't. I'm sorry. You cannot love what Kurt Cignetti has done and back him all the way and then bitch and cry about Ryan Day running a quarterback sneak at the end of that game, the way that game went down. You just can't. And I think that what you saw at the end of the game when Cignetti and Ryan Day came to midfield and shook hands, there was no hesitation. It looked like they had a nice little conversation. They were smiling with each other. Didn't look like there was any bad blood at all. So this is a created narrative that Indiana fans and OSU haters are trying to build up to make something out of nothing. You're a problem. I think it's ridiculous. They did nothing wrong. This day and age in college football, you got to win games. You got to win games by a lot of points. The window dressing means something when it comes to the seeding in the playoff. It just does. So it was a necessary move for Ryan Day and Ohio State, considering everything else that was happening in that game and everything that had happened before it. So get over it.
Get over it. All right, fair enough.
Get over it. You want to play with the big dogs and you want to say you're one of the best teams in the country. You want to hang with Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, these teams, Oregon. You got to come on. Stop. You can't complain. Period. You got to show up. That's it.
Got to deal with it. Joey D, who's a problem this week?
Shedeur Sanders is a problem.
In a good way?
No, in a bad way.
Oh, no. Why? Because you shoved the ref?
Yeah, he's just such a bitch, man.
Oh, I wasn't ready for that.
I have been,
You've been down in Colorado quite a long time.
Yeah, I just don't like the culture there, Mikey. I
must
gotta
have
be honest.
Loved that Jayhawk victory last night.
It was sweet. Let me tell you something. It was pretty sweet as sugar, man. I just, you know what? Listen, Travis Hunt to me is going to win the Heisman. He's an unbelievable player, and I don't think Shedeur Sanders is a bad quarterback. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. I'm not trashing him and his ability to make plays and be a player. I'm trashing his demeanor, the whole culture that surrounds this team, which ultimately goes to his dad. I mean, the fact that they're able to do the shenanigans, bringing out the chains and the watches and the wrappers and stuff. Now it's not as much this year, thank God, because last year was like a fucking joke. But it's like I feel like he just does whatever he wants, and he doesn't seem to think that there's any ramifications for acting like an idiot. And under no circumstance should you ever put your hands on a ref. I don't care what's going on. I just think he's a bit of a baby. If he doesn't get his way, he cries about it, and I kind of want to see him get his ass kicked in the NFL a little bit.
He's a good player, though. He'll definitely play.
Oh, he's good. I started off by saying
he's a good player, and I got a hot take too. I like Travis Hunter a lot. I think he's the most versatile player in college football. If you look at his stats for his positions that he plays, wide receiver, D-back, he's not really remotely close to being the best at either position.
But he does them both.
I understand he does both, but it's supposed to be the best player in college football. I really think Ashton Genty, for the running back from Boise State,
yards.
It really is kind of like he's having a historic season. Travis Hunter is not. He is not, and neither is his team. Now they've lost 3 games. And I understand Boise has a loss and everything like that, but I'm sorry. I know it's a hot take now, but Ashton Genty to me should be the Heisman over Travis Hunter. I'm sorry.
I mean, I don't know if it's a hot take. I think Genty's one of the top favorites to win Heisman after Travis Hunter. I mean,
I thought it was Hunter for a little while, and now I'm on Genty. I'm sorry.
By the way, how about him saying that if he didn't hit the 2,000 yards, he'd cut his dreadlocks off?
Yeah.
Hear that?
Yeah. He had 6 carries for 100 yards in the first quarter.
He burst a 60-yard touchdown right out of the gate.
He's a total monster.
What's with people in this day and age? If this doesn't happen, I'll do that. Why do people fucking do that? I'll get a tattoo of your team winning the national championship.
A lot of clickbait,
you.
A lot of clickbait.
Or I'll cut my hair. It's crazy, dude. Grow up.
It's because we're talking about it right now on this podcast. That's why people do.
I to know, I'm sure. All right. Well, you want to talk someone who's a bitch. My problem this week is Joel Embiid. This guy has become such
your boy.
We are
your boy.
He was my boy, but this guy is not a leader. He can't stay. He is very good, but he's just not a leader whatsoever on this team. Maxey had to get into it with him recently because he's just quitting. There's just no effort. There's nothing worse than no effort. A guy who's just quit on the team. And there's no reason that if he's supposed to be as good as Jokic or as good as all these guys, why are the Nuggets always good? And why do we can't get out of the second round? Sometimes not even the first. We stink. He stinks. He's a clown. And now we put Paul George around him. I don't think the world of Paul
George just got hurt.
But he's got Tyrese Maxey. Yeah, but we won 3 games while he was there. We're 3-10 or something.
3-13 now.
Yeah, there we go. Just keep stacking them on. And we have Maxey too, and he's a great player. And it's why can't this guy make it work? Why does he just quit? He's a problem.
I will say that game that the game we took the game that we did take the Sixers pop against the Grizzlies. I think Embiid looked unbelievable. I think he had 35 points and 11 rebounds. He looked good.
His play is not the problem. His behavior is the problem. Okay. It has nothing to do with him as a player.
So let me ask you a question.
Player.
Let me ask you a question. This is going to be a hard one to answer.
Sure.
Do you then give him, like, if you look back now, saying what you're saying now, do you go back to the time when he wasn't getting along with Ben Simmons and then say maybe he was part of that issue?
I think he was definitely part of the issue as far as, the issues that they had, but I don't think he was part of the issue as far as, like, we definitely picked a better player. Ben
For
Simmons
sure, but
was
I'm
not a
saying,
good
like,
player.
I'm saying, would you be quick to say that it wasn't all Ben Simmons that
I
created that?
think Ben Simmons is a nut. Listen, I think it's two nuts in a room together. I think that's what's happening
Takes
there.
two. It takes two.
It takes two. Usually does.
It takes two,
Yeah.
It
Both
takes
nuts.
two,
It's crazy how that league just attracts so
It
many
takes two.
fucking.
Yeah, there's a lot of prima donnas in the NBA, man.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here to fewer questions. We'll do a few of these and then we'll get out of here. First one comes from Alec Wallingsford. It's another fuck, marry, kill. People are loving these.
All right.
Chicken parm,
Ooh.
lasagna, spaghetti meatballs.
Yeah, it's easy.
I'm killing spaghetti meatballs.
Me
I
too.
think, by the way, let me tell you something. Here's a hot take. Spaghetti meatballs is one of the most overrated Italian dishes in existence. Right. And the fact that that's what we become known for is spaghetti and meatballs, to be quite frank, is a blasphemous disaster. I like spaghetti. I like meatballs. Spaghetti and meatballs isn't even in my top
bullshit.
7 pastas, 8 pastas.
It's anti-Italian discrimination is what it is.
That's an Olive Garden place.
Yeah, it is. So whoever wrote that, I hope you're Italian, because if not, that's discrimination.
Yeah. I'm killing spaghetti and meatballs. I will marry lasagna and I'll fuck with chicken parm. Just because the chicken parm, it's one of those dishes where you could interchange. To lose lasagna would be a tragedy, because you're
not going to lose it though. You're not losing it.
You're fucking it.
Got it. Yeah, you're fucking it.
It's your gourmand.
I feel like lasagna ain't a gourmand.
It is for me, dog.
I think it is.
It is for me. I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to marry the chicken parm, because that's an everyday thing for me. Chicken parm. Give me the chicken parm. Chicken parm, traditionally, you're getting your side of pasta. Nobody serves a chicken parm without pasta. So
that is right.
You're getting a linguine on the side. And then I'll fuck with lasagna. Like, lasagna is not something I could eat every day. I'll be fucking 500 pounds. So I can't do that. But chicken parm, certainly can marry that. And yeah, killing the spaghetti and meatball right off the bat.
I'm in lockstep with you, Michael. I think there's not a world where I don't walk chicken parm down the aisle. That's we're together for life.
Right. Yep.
Stuck with me. I signed the papers.
Good for you.
Maybe it's
no prenup.
No prenup. Didn't need it.
Wow. Locked and loaded, Pop.
Yep.
All right. Next question comes from Cade Maggart. What holds more weight in the college football playoffs? The team's worst loss or the pedigree of wins?
I would say the pedigree of wins, especially when you're looking at some of these teams. If they have the same amount of losses, like 1 loss, 2 loss teams, the first thing you say is, well, who did they beat? Right. The next thing is who did they lose to? So I would say the pedigree of wins it goes further than who you lost to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the losses mean more, only because, like, once you hit a certain number, I don't even think it matters, like, if a loss was a good loss. If you hit a certain number of losses, you're just going to be out. And the quality wins, like, what are we talking about this year? Like, there isn't a team other than really, Oregon is a consensus. In the AP Top 25 this week, Oregon received every single number 1 vote. They got all 61 votes. They are the consensus number 1 team in the country. The only team that's lost to them that is close to them is Ohio State. That's it. Ohio State's got the 1 loss to them. So really, like, in terms of, like, the ultra wins, like, who has beaten anybody of note other than really, like,
Georgia beat Texas.
Georgia beat Texas. That's a massive win for them, right? Because Texas is 3.
Yeah.
Ohio State beat Penn State, who is 4. Ohio State beat Indiana, who's now 10. So they have 2 top 10 wins, a loss to number 1 Oregon. Tennessee is 7. They beat Bama, but that win doesn't look that great anymore because now Bama's 13. Clemson lost to Georgia. So Georgia's got the win over Clemson. They've got the win over Texas. Georgia is 6. So I just think that the losses matter more, because if you get a certain number, it's just like, it doesn't matter who you beat. And I don't think there's that many teams who have, like, those outstanding marquee, like, unbelievable wins other than, like,
How about Mikey,
what
the
you just
last
mentioned.
several years before the 12-man playoffs, would you say the wins mattered more back then?
I don't know, because then the losses counted for even more. If you lost
Yeah.
Yeah,
two
maybe.
games, if you
Yeah,
lost
yeah,
two
yeah.
games, you had no shot.
It's
If you
slowly
lost two
moving
games, you're
back.
automatically out. You were
When I
automatically
when
out
I
if
was
you
a
lost two
kid, if you
games.
lost any games, it used to be like
Yeah.
it was that way, and then
With
you
the
could lose one.
BCS, yeah, with the BCS,
Correct.
you were done. You were
Yeah.
done if you lost a game. So yeah, I mean, and there's no, I mean, look at it. Look at it. There's one undefeated team in the major conferences. It left Oregon. That's it. And Oregon, they dodged. They didn't play Penn State. Um, they beat Michigan. They had to play Michigan, but Michigan wasn't what they thought they would be. Washington this year, not what they thought they would be. They didn't play Indiana, so they didn't have to play them. So they dodged the two best teams outside of Ohio State in the Big Ten. Indiana, Penn State didn't have to play them. Ohio State played all three. Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, the top three teams. They came out 2-1, and the one loss was a one-pointer on the road. I still think Oregon's the number one team in the country. They deserve to be the number one team in the country. But the BCS, like, it would be wild this year if it was still the BCS. Like, I don't know what they would do. Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, all 10-1, one-loss teams. Then
Yeah.
you got Georgia, Tennessee, 9-2, Miami, 10-1, SMU, 10-1, Indiana, 10-1, Boise State, 10-1. I mean, it's crazy. This is the
Yeah.
wildest year of college football as terms of being as wide open as it's ever been. It's crazy.
We also
Yeah.
said it was going to be wild with 12 playoff teams and the new
Hasn't
format.
disappointed.
It's been, I mean, you got to think that like the committee's got to be licking their chops
Oh,
now. They got less work to do in the sense that like they're not going to be scrutinized nearly as much because someone's team was left out. So it makes their job easier. And it's going to make for more enjoyable football and more football in general. More
Yeah.
playoff football.
Absolutely. All right, let's quickly do one more there. Nathan LaManna, what are your current NFC and AFC championship game matchup predictions?
AFC, I would take the Bills and the Chiefs. Ravens defense is just too shaky for me to count on them. So I'd go Chiefs, Bills, rematch of what you saw last Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then NFC right now, the Lions are going to be locked in that game.
Yeah.
And, I still like Green Bay as a team to me that's going to still hang around and be in the mix, and the Eagles. I think it'll be between Green Bay and the Eagles. Whoever is going to emerge as the opponent for the Lions, I think it'll be one of them. If I had to pick, I would say I'd give it to the Eagles right now, but I think it's close. I
would go Eagles, Lions. As much as I want to put the Packers there, I think in a couple of years, the Packers are going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. I think they're emerging. I just don't know if they're there just yet. I think the Eagles are more, ready, and the Lions are definitely ready to make a championship push. In the AFC, I mean, you think the Chiefs probably will be there? I would say the Bills this year. I would put up there.
Yep.
And then give me an odd one. Give me the Steelers and the Bills.
I was
That's
wondering
wild,
if someone was
dude.
going to take the Steelers.
Wild.
You know why? Just because I think, the Steelers lost to Cleveland, but I don't put too much weight on that game. I think the Steelers are built so well defensively. I think
They are.
that they could keep a team that has offensive, prowess at bay. And especially as you get further and further into these cold weather games, now given they just lost a cold weather game, but I do think they're built for playoff football. I think that they, with Russ, have enough on the offensive side that they can put up points while holding good teams to not scoring a lot and winning just dirty, gritty games. So give me the Steelers and the Bills on the one side. The
Wow.
Chiefs, to me, listen, they're a good team. I'm not taking anything away from them. But I've said all year, they win these games and they don't win convincingly. They don't look great. They should have an extra couple losses. I think finally someone's going to get in the playoffs. They're just going to take them out. I really do. So, hey, but don't count out those Broncos just yet either. Mr.
Fair
Bo
enough.
Nix.
Fair
looks
enough.
Yeah,
real good.
another team that really nobody's talking about that's just hanging around in there. And you'll see them tomorrow night, and we'll see what they're really
Chargers.
made of against the Ravens. Is the Chargers. I mean, they're a 7-3 team. Nobody's talking about them. One of the best defenses in the league, one of the best run games in the league. What wins in the playoff? What travels in the playoffs? Run game and defense. Run game and defense. Harbaugh, one of the best coaches in the game. I don't care, pro level, college level. You got to give him credit where credit's due. tomorrow night will tell a long, long tale of what this Charger team is really about.
It's in LA, right?
It's gonna be a barn
In
burner.
LA.
Yeah,
In LA.
that'll be a good one. The
Harbaugh
Bros.
v. Harbaugh.
That's right. I'll do the Packers and the Lions, and then I'll do the Chiefs and the Bills. I like the Steelers actually, kind of, but they got to ditch those Justin Field packages.
Yeah.
Those are just strange,
Yeah.
man.
Stop.
Throws off the rhythm of the offense too.
If you're gonna have him in, just have him and Russ in at the same time, and have him just
Sure.
run like a scat back option quarterback kind of a thing. Like, you can't put him in because the defense. I just feel like the defense could just make such easy adjustments when he's in the game. They just like you're gonna play for the run. If you get beat by the pass, it is what it is.
Yeah. And you probably won't get beat by the pass.
That's correct.
That's the point.
That's correct.
All right, gentlemen. Another good episode. A lot of fun. Look forward to Thanksgiving. Have a happy Thanksgiving to
happy
you
Thanksgiving,
boys.
Thanksgiving, boys.
Have a happy Thanksgiving to all you out there listening. We appreciate it, and we will see everybody next week.